We start with a mute. At least my thing said, "You're muted." I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Thank you all to everybody that came over from the Chad Daybell conversation. Hello, Karen. Thank you all. Hello from Seattle. Howdy. Thank you all for joining. Today is who we are going to start with talking about Hannah Gutierrez, the pre-sentencing report, some of the information that came out in that. I don't have access to the full report, but I do have some reporting on it and some of the quotes that were taken from it. And then we are going to hear from the victim in this case. So if you don't know about this at all, the movie Rust was being filmed. And in the middle of filming on one day back in 2021, Helena Hutchins and one other cast member ended up being shot. And Helena did not survive her injuries, and her family gave some really touching remarks. Her mom, so I was in Emily D. Baker's chat when she was going through this, and the emotions from mom are so heavy. And if you want to go back and see that full video from mom, like please go back. Mom's words were so touching, and it seemed like there was some survivor's guilt or just some grief over wanting to protect her more. And as a parent, that's the one thing, like we can't protect our kids from everything. And I really felt for her mom. I will share her sister's statement. So Helena's sister shared a statement, and then Hannah is going to speak for herself. Mm, and we will talk about that. Her dad is going to make a statement. But before we get into all of that, and the judge's sentencing. And this was one of the ones. So normally judges do a pretty good job where you can't really tell if they've been bothered by a defendant or not. Because I recently covered, it was, y'all know me in names. Who did I cover recently? It was Judge Duro. Y'all know her. Oh my gosh, we didn't know that she would ever be sentenced. So I just covered a case recently, and Judge Duro, I'm sure, was extremely perturbed with the defendant, but she just seemed cool, calm, and collected. And she talked for a really long time because the defendant talked for a really long time. Let me see if the chat's already said it. Yes, Jessie Kershkeshki. I can't say her last name. Jessie, that case was a hot mess. And that judge did a phenomenal job covering everything. This judge, you can tell that she's hot. But Hannah made some statements about the judge, about like she wanting her mom to approach the prosecutor in the bathroom. She just on these recorded phone calls. So every time you make a phone call, you hear like that the phone call is being recorded. And she's just out here saying whatever she wants to say, calling jurors the R word. Like, I just can't. Like, it was, and so I'm not surprised. If the judge could have sentenced her to like 5 years, the judge probably would have. The maximum punishment was 18 months, and that was what she was sentenced to. I do want to get to the part where um, the prosecutors talked about the fact that she repeatedly violated safety protocol, acted without caution in performing her duties, including at one time giving a firearm to an 11-year-old actor without making sure that the firearm was safe. And I think Hannah thought that she was going to get away with all of this and that she was just gonna get probation. I don't know that she's had consequences before. Like, I don't know that she's had real consequences for her actions, and that is, like, mm, she the judge said what she said, and we're gonna get to that in a moment. But, the prosecutor cited a complete and total failure to accept responsibility for her actions, which she continued to do. She blamed everybody else for what happened. Um, alright. And so I wanna get to the part where, um, they talk about the letters. So we have what happened in the trial. Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to share a different one. All right, so let me find the article that talks about the letters. I had one saved and it did not. I was not able to do that one. All right, here we go. Emily D. Baker and a few other people, the lawyer you know, also covered this one, and they break down the legal aspects of this. But, all right, so let me see. All right. So she, in her jail calls, she's alleged to have called the jurors idiots and a-holes, and they left out the R word one, but I've seen multiple streamers talk about the fact that she called them that. The jurors only took 2 hours to deliberate, and let's see. Alec Baldwin's trial is gonna be coming up, but Hannah, of course, wants them to put Alec Baldwin in jail as well. Like that's she's the one that's on trial right now. But in those letters, she pretty much asked, like, her mom to meet the judge in the bathroom, which is not a no, not the judge, the prosecutor, to try to, like, talk to the prosecutor. She wanted the victim in the case, their surviving, like, son, to try to speak on her behalf, which is not appropriate. And then her mom made some statement about her like finding somebody in the jail to establish her dominance there. And Hannah was making joke like that she was fine, that like, oh, things are food isn't that bad, things are fine, and that she was looking forward to getting out. That's pretty much what ended up happening. And the whole thing was just an absolute mess. The judge was having none of it. um So, and I think consequences don't have to just be grounding, okay? So, my child, one of the biggest consequences he hates is, and he's 6. And so children, under the so like you do natural consequences. So like when he was 4 years old, if he colored on the walls, I would like have him help me clean it up or whatever. But like when he was 2, and if I left a marker in his reach and he colored on the walls, ugh, like that was on mom. That was on me. Because sometimes I've seen people have inappropriate expectations of children, including people like Ruby Frankie. I think Ruby Frankie expected children to be perfect. And so like I feel like people can go to the opposite end of the spectrum with that. And in my personal opinion, it didn't seem like her family held her responsible at all. And um so that's where, if my child didn't do his homework and the teacher doesn't accept late work, I'm not going to email the teacher to ask if the teacher will accept it. If he's 10 years old and older, like if he's an older child, I'm gonna have him reach out to his teacher. He can copy me on it. If he reaches out to the teacher and doesn't go well, we can talk about it, but I'm not gonna rescue him from the consequences of his behavior. If my child, if let's say he got his driver's license and he ended up going too fast and he got a ticket. I'm not like, if I do pay for a lawyer, he's not to pay me back. Like, I'm not like there are consequences for your actions. Like, there just are. And if it was my car, if it was a car in my name, like that he would lose access to things. Like that there are consequences for your behavior. Like, there are just some people that just don't seem to get that. And I think she was raised pretty, from what I've seen and from how she acts, it seems like she was raised pretty entitled. I do also wanna say, because people ask, like, how can you avoid having something like this happen with your child? That you can do things well, and there still be things that happen. Um, I'm gonna share a case. Um it was just 8 days ago, out of the university, no, out of, I think it was Florida. Let me see. Back. I They want me to try to sign up. I think I can view it without having to sign up. So, I don't know if y'all heard about this case, but this, son, I believe he's 21 years old, but he drove from the University of Florida and he unalived his mom. And just because, and all he told the police is that she bothered him, she irritated him, and he loved her, but she irritated him, and he had been thinking about it for a very long time. Like, I don't have, like, everybody describes her as a phenomenal mom, and, like, that's where you can do all the things and something still happen where a child makes their own decision, where a person makes their own decision. That case truly just broke my heart, because there didn't seem to be warning signs. Like, it seemed like he was a successful student. He was on his way. Cause, like, let's say he didn't want to be pre-med. Let's say he didn't want to go to medical school. I think he probably could have talked to his family or he could have, like, worked with a therapist on, like, how do you set boundaries with your family? Cuz let's say the family, let's say they were really involved, or he only wanted to message his mom once a week instead of every few days. That you set those boundaries in healthy ways. Like, you don't let something build up to that point. And so that was the case for me, where it was just like, I did see it. I don't know what I haven't seen exactly what happened. I do know, I think it was like 8 people. I know there was, like, a large incident that happened over, I think it was over the weekend. Like, he set it up, 'cause she was planning to come and visit him, and he was like, "Oh, let me come and visit you." The For the press conference, so there's a, because it happened in Florida, and there's a particular, like, he does press conferences in Florida. He played, I think it was, like, Kanye West, or I don't know, that he was listening to rap lyrics. I don't think the lyrics were the problem. Like, I don't think the music he was listening to, because there are people, excuse me, there are people that listen to that song, that listen to that music, and they wouldn't do the the thing that he did. And so, um, and that's where I'm really, really big on mental health. So that's my mama. Hey, mama. Welcome, welcome. He was completely sober. Okay. In that case, he was completely sober. There's no evidence that there was any of that. And he's pretty much said that he had been thinking about it for a very long time, which is very, very sad. I wanted to give that other side, because sometimes you look at a situation like this and you want to be like, oh, if the parents had just done this, or if this had just happened, this situation wouldn't have happened. Well, we don't know that. Like, now, I think if there is structure, if there are boundaries, if kids learn from their behavior and all of those things, I think they're less likely to do those things, but it's not absolute. It doesn't mean that it definitely won't happen. And so I just wanted to share that. So, the prosecutor is going to introduce, Helena's sister, and, this is the part where, they show, Helena's mom talking, and this part is just, it's really, really heart-wrenching. I do wanna play a part to honor Helena, and so we're gonna listen to her sister. I will read it. She is speaking. They are from Kiev? I could be wrong. I'm bad. I'm bad with places. But they are speaking in their native language, and it's being translated.
Boy who was born after her death. Her death has shattered. She was my friend, and in a certain sense, my second mother. The video of Svetlana.
То вона мені була
She was for me
в
in a
якомусь
sense
сенсі
like my mama. She helped me
ми
raise me in
позиціонують,
my
бо
childhood.
приймала участь у моєму вихованні. У нас було дуже
We
багато
had a
і
lot of very
таких
warm, kind,
теплих,
heartfelt stories and
смішних
moments.
історій. І коли я
When
була
I was
зовсім
little, we
маленька,
would have these funny
то у нас
little
був такий,
competitions,
не
fooling
знаю, як це
around, and with
сказати,
years that passed and we became
змагання,
older.
хто кого передражнить. Але згодом, коли ми стали дорослішими, то ми
Our age
у нас ці
difference felt less
стосунки
and less noticeable,
із виховання
and
її
from the
боку
motherly role,
перетекли
she took
більш
the
такі
role of my
дружні, і
closest
ці
friend.
межі вікові, вони стерилися. І ми почали там
We would
тусуватися
have
разом,
fun,
десь
hang out,
їздити на
go shopping
шопінг,
together. We would
знайомитися,
make
проводити час
she would make
по-інакшому.
me feel like
Як
her equal, and I felt
я тоді
myself
так
so grown
кайфувала,
up
думала,
around
вау, я
her.
така доросла. Вона мене брала десь із
She would take me
собою.
everywhere with her.
Ми цікаво проводили
The
час.
time that was fun together was
Навіть
so
просто
interesting for
поїхати на
me,
прогулянку, вона мені
even
давала свій
if
одяг, у неї був
just for a
завжди
walk.
дуже модний одяг, вона
She has such
мала
great
гарний
fashion sense.
смак,
She
і
had such great
для мене було
taste. It
це
was so
так тепло, що
touching.
вона зі
She
мною
would share
ділилася.
everything with me.
І може
She
цю
showed me
якість
what
мені
kindness and
таку
generosity looked
нежмота,
like.
можна так виразитися. Це може і від неї трохи пішло, бо вона така
She would
ніколи
never keep
не
anything just for
прижимала
herself.
навіть
She would
шоколадку
even share with
вона
me the last
ділила
piece of
все
chocolate.
порівну.
Aw.
Ніколи вона не брала собі
She
ніколи більше. Це
think
як
her
по-братськи,
better for
по-братинськи,
herself.
чи як
She would
кажуть.
always
Я
share it.
всім ходила, потякала,
I was
кажу, моя
bragging to
сестра
everyone
в
about
мене
my sister. I would
найкрутіша. Я
even
ще
joke and
жартувала, кажу,
say
що у
how
нас
lazy I am. Aw.
е,
Look how lazy I
я
am.
такий ледаща, а сестра
And
працює
how
за двох
hardworking she was.
нас.
She worked for the two
Вона
of
дуже
us.
багато
She
працювала,
was
щоб
totally working so
дістатися
hard to
своєї
get her
мети.
dream
Дуже
accomplished.
багато. Моя сестра
My
була
sister was
крута.
so cool. She was my
Це
friend.
був мій
In
друг.
a sense, my inspiration
Це
and
було
role
моє
model.
натхнення в якомусь сенсі, бо коли мені ставало
The
якось
times
зле,
when I felt low,
я
I
завжди
would
думала, ось у тебе сестра
I would
така
recall my
крута.
sister
Їй
would
завжди
always
було
wait, let me go
пофіг
back.
на усі проблеми, вона йшла.
All right. The funny little competitions. Okay. All right. I'm gonna let it keep going. I missed it. As I sit here today, I realistically cannot name one bad quality that
Не
she
можу
possessed.
сказати жодної поганої або мінусової характеристики дати їй, ніяк. Чесно, не тому, що вона
Just
моя
truly none of
сестра,
them. Not
а
because
просто
she's my
вона така
sister, but
людина.
because she's a
Вона була дуже
person that
крута.
was so amazing.
Сестра в мене
She was truly an
була для мене
example to me
прикладом.
to follow and respect
Багато в чому, до
my
речі.
upbringing.
Вона мені
She, in
багато
some
чого
aspects, gave
пояснювала,
me
і
more
у
than
плані
my mom did.
виховання мені здається, що вона навіть більше мені дала, аніж мама. Мені дуже важко про це казати, бо то була моя така велика мрія.
To me, when all of these are being read, I didn't really see much of a response from Hannah at all. She was just sitting there. You will see a response from her as she, in my opinion, kind of cries for herself, talks about the like the movie industry, like that was the part of her her statement where she got the most emotional.
Мріє, щоб ми збиралися з дітками, усією нашою
They
родиною,
get together with
і
their kids,
святкували Різдво, або там
like a
хоча б,
whole
я не кажу
family,
дуже
maybe before
часто,
Christmas time
раз,
or
2
some
рази
other
на
holiday.
рік. То була така моя
That was
мрія,
my dream
щоб
for the
дітки
kids to
разом
all play
гралися,
together,
щоб
for us
от,
to gather at the big
вогонь
table
горів, і всі
with
так
a crackling fireplace,
за столом, і ми разом, і щоб це було так
and
тепло.
it
Я
would
розумію, що
feast
цього
around
вже
it,
ніколи не буде.
the warmth of our love.
Блін, ну не можу.
Mm, wow.
Мені треба, я не знаю, втекти. Фу. Короче, ну как-то
I
не
didn't wanna
хотела
cry.
реветь.
This is the one thing to talk about how great she was, but another to understand she
Ну
is gone
просто
forever.
одно дело, когда ты говоришь, какая она классная, другое дело, когда ты понимаешь и все. Я взагалі намагалася триматися
Trying to
якомога
hold on to my emotions as best I could, but I can't.
міцніше, коли це трапилося, бо я розуміла, що якщо я ще буду плакати, то мама взагалі здуріє.
I can't
Я
allow myself
просто
to cry.
бажаю, щоб
I did not want for
ця
the situation to
ситуація
be taken
не
as
лишалася
unpunished,
просто
as
так
an
в
accident, like it
повітрі,
just happened and
як
it's gone, it's thrown in the
випадок,
wind.
бо люди мають нести
People
відповідальність
should
за
carry
свої
responsibilities
вчинки.
for the things that they have done and for the effect that it has on others.
І кожен, хто
I
винен,
think it's the guilt of
я
one
вважаю,
person
що винна
only.
не тільки
I
одна
think
людина
it's a
тут, бо
collective guilt and
е,
responsibility for what's
ми там
happened
не
to her.
були, звісно, але як
And it's for the
будуть
court to
докази,
decide, but everyone who
як
is legally
по цій
responsible for her
справі,
death,
то
as evidence will
кожного,
show,
кого вдасться
each should take
притягти
responsibility
до
for their
відповідальності,
participation
мають
in it.
нести цю відповідальність. Бо це не тільки життя
What happened is not
однієї
only
людини,
that
це
the life
ще
of one
здоров'я
person was
всієї
taken,
родини
it's the
і ментальне
psychological
здоров'я мого племінника.
All right. I'm gonna fast
Holy
forward.
the nuclear of
My bad. I'm gonna mute. And so they're gonna talk about all right. So there's Helena and her son. I do want to get to the defendant statement. Let me see. I'm just gonna come check in on the chat. Yep. I agree that Hannah's dad did not seem to acknowledge the gravity of his daughter's actions. I agree. And I think, is he a armorer as well? Because y'all correct me in the chat if I'm wrong. Is he a so Patty B, do you know what the R? So it's a there's a word that starts with R. It's a derogatory word that it used to be in the DSM 3. And the DSM 4. So the full word that used to describe an intellectual disability is mental retardation, but that was for that was a word that we no longer use. So now in the DSM 5, we have intellectual disabilities. She called the jurors the R word. So I do not like that word. I do not say that's um I've diagnosed individuals with intellectual disabilities before, and I believe that intelligence is there isn't only one type of intelligence. There are some people that I've worked with an intellectual disability, but they were really gifted within this other area. And I've also worked with people that are neurodivergent. Y'all know I'm a little neurospicy, and that sometimes I have felt incredibly dumb because of my I have a so when I read, sometimes I mix up words. Dyslexia runs in my family. ADHD also runs in my family, and people use that word in a very, very derogatory way. And so That's what that part was about. Let's see. All right, I'm catching up on the chat. Oh, yeah, and they were trying to get her dad, so I think in one of the jail calls, I think she asked for leniency because her dad has leukemia, but they were trying to use it for her to not be responsible for her actions. It wasn't just like, "Oh my gosh, I wanna support my dad and be there for him." It was so that she wouldn't have to be in jail. So, yeah. Alright, we're gonna see where this part is.
Wait a minute.
Let's see. Mm.
Okay. Why don't we let me see what the
Technology.
best way is to handle this and like that. May I approach?
Okay, I'm gonna let them figure that part out. So let's get to the part of Hannah's statement. All right, let's. All righty, I think we're close.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, Ms. Gutierrez-Reed has a statement she'd like to tell the court.
Let's all breathe. It's not gonna be very good.
First and foremost, my heart aches for the Hutchins family and friends and colleagues as well. And it has since the day this tragedy occurred. Helena has been and always will be an inspiration to me. I understand she was taken too soon, and I pray that you all find peace. I am beyond grateful that Joel survived that terrible day. My heart goes out to the film industry for the devastating pain that this tragedy caused and the old wounds.
So she seems so like the part where she starts to get emotional is talking about the film industry. And in her jail calls, she talked about being like distraught that her modeling career was now ruined and all of this. Like, ugh. To me, this statement is very much about her. I don't know if her attorney recommended that she make any adjustments or I don't know. Uh, she talked about, uh, but to me, she doesn't show any emotion when talking about the actual victim in this, in my opinion.
That have been reopened. I am saddened by the way the media sensationalized our traumatic tragedy and portrayed me as a complete monster, which has actually been.
And so I hold a non-judgmental stance. So I do not I don't know enough about her. I don't use the word monster, so I wouldn't describe her that way. In my opinion, she comes off as detached and unfeeling, uncaring, lacking empathy. To me, that's not a judgment. Like to me, that's describing what I've seen in her behavior. Those are kind of my thoughts. Um, and she comes off as entitled and just like apathetic. Like she just comes off like she just doesn't care. And I think there was testimony that she was kind of careless on the job. I think there were allegations of her of I think substances and things. And so like those things are concerning to me. I don't think she did it on purpose. I don't think she did anything to make sure it didn't happen, and that was her job. Her job as the armorer was to make sure that all the weapons were safe, and she didn't do her job. And that's what the jury found her guilty of.
Been the total opposite of what's been in my heart. Your Honor, when I took on Rust, I was young and I was naive. But I took my job as seriously as I knew how to. Despite not having proper time, resources, and staffing, when things got tough, I just did my best to handle it.
So she was blaming it on not having enough resources, timing, and staffing. And so if it wasn't safe, she should have spoke up. If she did not feel she had the resources she needed to make to be safe, it was her job to speak up about that. And it's my understanding that did not happen. Okay.
Today, I humbly ask you to consider probation, a probation where I can contribute to society through community service, and I can continue my counseling, and I welcome any classes that you may deem necessary for me to attend.
So she's not even suggesting like, "Oh, I could take, a class on this or that." Like, "Oh, you recommend what class you think I should take."
I give you my word now that I would strictly follow the rules and respect the parameters of that probation.
So when I think she was also found because she was on because I think during this trial she was not incarcerated and she was not supposed to consume alcohol. And it's my understanding that they found out that she had broke that rule while she was like on trial. So that's the thing.
I beg you, please don't give me more time. The jury has found me in part at fault for this god-awful tragedy, but that made me a monster. That makes me human. Thank you.
Because I'm one of the first ones to admit that we all make mistakes. So we all do. We all make mistakes and you are responsible for what you do. Like there are consequences. And so I actively practice non-judgment. It helps me stay sane. So I work with individuals that have very big behaviors. And if I took those behaviors personally, I would be like pulling my hair out. Like I wouldn't be okay. And those behaviors are a sign of what's going on with them. I check in with them to see if there is anything about like I don't know I don't know like I make sure that I'm not adding to anything, and that therapy is a safe place for them. But taking that non-judgmental stance. So non-judgment doesn't mean that I don't see things that are like wrong but what it is I don't ascribe a like so if my child doesn't make his bed, I don't say he's lazy. He didn't follow through on what I asked him to do. I asked him to make his bed. I need him to make his bed. So I don't cuz sometimes we perceive what other people's intentions are and we aren't always great at guessing those things. And sometimes the bigger thing is me getting my child to do the thing that I need him to do or to figure out what's getting in the way of him consistently doing whatever it is I'm asking him to do. And so we're going to get back to the neurodivergent, to the processing questions. I might have y'all ask those again later in the chat, but I will definitely get back to those questions at the end. So she gave that statement, and then her dad is going to come up and get a statement.
And I believe Del Reed would like to speak to the court this time.
Because of the jail calls, her mom was barred from the court. But I have y'all ever heard of that? Her mother was not allowed to be, so Hannah's mother was not allowed to be there for sentencing because of like things that were said on the court calls. So I've never heard of that. I've also never heard of people to be like that. Like it's not smart to like be going back and forth with like making these types of statements on calls that they're going to go back and listen to. Like they must not follow true crime. They must not. His statement is brief. I don't think it helped.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brief statement. it's a horrible tragedy for that wonderful lady to lose her life. Also be a tragedy to put my daughter Hannah in the penitentiary.
And he didn't even say her name. I did not hear him, so he kind of the way that he's speaking really fast. He didn't prepare. That's where sometimes people read off of something. Some people do talk off the top of their head, but he is comparing the tragedy of somebody being like not here forever to the possibility of his daughter spending 18 months in jail because she didn't do what she was supposed to do. She was found guilty of a crime. I can't.
Attention for that. It's alleged she introduced live ammunition on the set. That's not true. Why would she?
S- So how all this happened is somebody brought live ammunition onto the set. There are dummy rounds and you're supposed to shake them to make sure that they're not, and she did not do her job to make sure that she did not load an active round into Alec Baldwin's gun. Like that's what she was supposed to do. That was like a major part of her job.
The two people responsible for whatever come on the set are the vendor and the property master who had to work for her. On that terrible day, they had Hannah off the set doing prop duties, and she asked him, please bring her back on when Mr. Baldwin comes so he could do a final check on the gun and its instructors. They did not do that. If they had it, this horrible day would not happen. Thank you, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the court.
Thank you.
I don't think that statement was helpful at all. I I agree. I think it they don't see that she did anything wrong. Why would I release her to y'all's care? Because there were also allegations that she might still get access to weapons because there were a few different ways to charge, like for her to be sentenced, and the judge is going to go through those three things. That like the charges could almost be like not quite dismissed, but like they could not deferred. That wasn't the word, but they're gonna go through it. I'm just gonna press play.
Thank you, Your Honor. And just briefly, Judge, I've made most of my arguments in the written pleadings. And Judge, it's nobody in this courtroom could not be moved by what we just saw. The family, Helena's family, her friends, it was a horrible tragedy. There's no doubt about that. And it's a tragedy for everybody. There were a number of lives changed, lost. That day, her friends talked about that. And that includes Ms. Gutierrez. I just want the court to know primarily that she has felt remorse. And maybe I've talked to her as much as anybody.
She has not shown remorse. To me, maybe they don't understand what remorse is. Remorse is taking responsibility for your actions and then making steps to make sure that like that doesn't happen again and making amends. To me, like remorse, it's not just saying, it's not an empty I'm sorry. Her I'm sorry felt empty to me. To me personally, it felt empty.
At least on the legal side, Miss. She's broken down. She's had mental breakdowns. She said, if only, many, many, many times. And it hasn't come out. It hasn't come out until today because of the legal proceedings and the system we have. But she has truly felt remorse, and I will tell the court that. As an officer of the court, that she has indicated that to me. This court has seen jail calls she's made. I would submit to this court that you could probably survey 100 people after something like this happens, including everybody that participated in the trial, scrutinize all of our calls, and pick out something bad that.
Sir, she's the one on trial for doing the thing, and her calls were being screened. And she showed like a complete disregard for the courts, for this process. And these are my thoughts, a complete disregard for all of those things. And that she's just going to do what she wants to do. That's how I felt by the things that I heard in her call.
One of us said, because, Your Honor, none of us are what we are on our best day, nor are we what we are on our worst day. And as Ms. Gutierrez said, she's human. She's flawed just like everybody else in this courtroom. We, this court, to consider fairness in respect that this was a cascade of tragedy. As some of the speakers indicated, there were multiple system failures by multiple people. Some of those people have come before the court, as this court knows, and received 6-month misdemeanor probation. Some have not been punished. Some have yet to come before the court. At least one individual is going to be.
This doesn't have anything to do with his client. Let's not bring Alec into this. Like, let's just focus on your client.
Tried in July. And so I know this court has the responsibility to weigh all of that and to determine what is commensurate and fair, as one speaker said, for Ms. Gutierrez. And what does that mean in the scope of things and what has come before this court? And I'm asking the court to consider that. And also what probation might do for her in terms of rehabilitation, which is another goal of our system here.
Anything else?
No, you're right.
All right, so I've made some notes along the way. So if I refer to the notes and I'm not looking at tables, it's because I'm reading. First of all, thank you for your presentations. Thank the friends and family of Helena for presenting their memories and their losses of Helena. There are really 3 choices for sentencing before me. What the defense wants is a conditional discharge. This means straight probation, unless Ms. Gutierrez comes back on a probation violation. She won't have a felony conviction on her record, so she can continue to possess firearms. Again, unless she comes back on a probation violation and receives the imposition of the probated sentence. The second one has not been offered by counsel, but I've certainly thought of it, and it's to continue her in the Santa Fe County Detention Center. That would be for 12 months. That's all she's allowed to stay at the detention center. And then put her on probation for the rest of the time. She's facing 18 months. She's got pre-sentence confinement for about a month or so. In this scenario, she won't experience prison. She will be a convicted felon. She cannot carry.
It might have been, the judge might have needed to take like a 30, 45-minute break. Sometimes you've seen that. So that's what Judge Duro did after Jesse K's statement. And I'm sure the judge needed to get herself together. Um, I think this judge was fair. I think the judge went by the law, and if there was anything that the judge did that went against the law, then that would be a reason for appeal. But the things that Hannah said about the judge, about the prosecution, the way that she showed no respect for any of these proceedings, and this judge, I'm sure, sees defendants that are like that all the time. And sometimes they don't have the resources that Hannah and her family had in order to like put on a pretty decent defense. And so, um, uh, normally the judge does a better job hiding it. The judge is not hiding it at all, but it's good. The judge isn't doing this in front of the jury. So I think if the judge were to do this in front of the jury, I think that would be a problem. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a psychologist. Judge Duro, like the patience she has, like I do not have that much patience for uh no, I just don't. Cuz she had Jesse and she had the sovereign citizen Daryl Brooks. Like and she has some other ones coming up too. Like I just can't.
Carry a firearm under federal law and for a specific time under New Mexico law. And then there's prison. And the state has proposed at 85% of the time sentenced to incarceration based on the serious violent offense statute. For all the fanfare and pundits and finger pointing that has been going on for over 2 years, we were able to seat a jury of her peers who confirmed they could listen to the evidence received in court and determine the facts and apply the law. They found Ms. Gutierrez guilty of involuntary manslaughter. What were some of the poignant facts that came out during the trial? In her police interview, she proudly owned her position as armorer. On October 21st, 2021, chaos ended after the film crew walked off. Ms. Hutchins and others were trying to rig, if you will, how they were going to keep filming. And what was the defendant doing while waiting? She was loading Alec Baldwin's gun. Did she have enough time to load the weapon safely? Plenty. Did she load the weapon? Yes, with dummies and a live round. Did she check what she was loading? No. Why? Well, in her own words, most recently in her jail calls, she didn't need to be shaking the dummies all the time. Did she check after that? No. And while you've heard her concerns about how she'll never work again as an armorer leading up to the trial, have her concerns changed? No. Here's what she says. This whole thing has been a character attack on her. Just recently in her allocution, I'm not a monster. And what did, where is it? They talk about how much of on the phone, she and another are talking about how much of Hannah's life that they could take up, and that this is messing up her modeling career. This is while she's incarcerated, waiting for a sentence. And what does she say about the death of Helena? Hannah is dismissive of the judge talking about someone dying as a result of her actions. Hannah says she's looking at 13 months, which is ridiculous over what happened. Hannah says that people have accidents and people die. It's an unfortunate part of life, but it doesn't mean she should be in jail. A conditional discharge is not appropriate. And the second option of leaving you in the detention center would be giving you a pass you do not deserve. I did not hear you take accountability in your allocution. You said you were sorry. You were sorry, but not you were sorry for what you did. You were sorry for and hope they can find peace. It was your attorney that had to tell the court that you were remorseful.
Exactly.
The word remorse, a deep regret coming from a sense of guilt for past wrongs. That's not you. You're hereby sentenced as follows. Stand. I am sentencing you to 18 months of incarceration at a New Mexico Women's Correctional Facility. I find that what you did constitutes a serious violent offense. It was committed in a physically violent manner, a fatal gunshot done with your recklessness in the face of knowledge that your acts were reasonably likely to result in serious harm. You were the armorer, the one that stood between a safe weapon and a weapon that could kill someone. You alone turned a safe weapon into a lethal weapon. But for you, Miss Hutchins would be alive, a husband would have his partner, and a little boy would have his mother. Please take her. I'm going to ask the deputies to watch how the courtroom gets cleared. Please do an order of remand to the transport order to the Department of Corrections and the judgment.
So to me, I think the judge was speaking for the victim and was probably disgusted, or I don't know what emotion, but you could tell there was, I kind of saw disgust, just like, "Ugh, I can't believe she's not taking responsibility." And then to know some of the back and forth with Hannah and her mom, to me, the judge scolded her almost like a child. like like the judge scolded her like a child. And it reminded me of the way that Judge Juro talk to Jesse and the way that a few other judges have come forward to say, like, what you did was not okay. You are not exhibiting remorse. This is what remorse is. And I just, yes, disgust. Yeah, so disgust is, and contempt is a really, really strong emotion. And I kind of, that judge, she was, and I think she would have been open if Hannah had shown some remorse, but I don't know that she was capable. Like, at no point during any point of this trial did she show it. And she wasn't able to, like, put it on the way that, in my opinion, I think Ruby Frankie kind of put on remorse. I don't from reading her journals and hearing Ruby Frankie's jail calls, ooh, ugh, ugh, I just can't. And the lawyer is doing his job for his client. And so I in no way fault, and I don't think the chat was either. I in no way, like, her lawyer heard her statement and was like, "Judge, she has remorse." He addressed the phone calls. Like, he got up and made a statement. There, I did cover James Crumbly's sentencing, and a lot of people were wondering how much coaching he received from his lawyer, because he seemed to do a better job at attempting remorse in his than but his jail calls got him in trouble as well. And so, oy, oy. Once again, on Thursday, we are going to be talking. We're going back. Oh, I'm going to do it. We're going to go back to Ruby and Jody. We're going to cover Connections Classroom. It's going to be 11:45 a.m. on Thursday, Eastern. It's going to be for me, it's going to be a lunchtime stream. I found the video of a former Connections coach that is coming forward and sharing her, just, I don't know. I guess she feels bad. I don't know. But she's talking about it. A lot of people have wondered what she thinks about it. And a viewer sent me that video, and I'm definitely going to cover that. Yeah, James's, what he said did not match what he was giving in his statements, but he tried. He tried. And him and Jennifer both got the same thing. So it was a public defender, I think. If it was a public defender, so I didn't watch her whole trial. I didn't watch it. And if he didn't do his job, but I don't know what you could object to, because there has to be something that you can object to, but I didn't watch the whole thing. But yeah, I appreciate you all. Be sure to like the video. If you haven't subscribed, make sure, if you like this type of content, any case I cover, we're always going to talk about it from what we can learn, what we can get from this. And the one thing that I hope we all get from this is that, oh, you gotta tell your kids no. So you don't have to be mean, but, like, kids need boundaries. Kids need to know that, like, hey, I'm not gonna rescue you from I'll be there. I'll be there, but you might have the consequences of your actions. You just might. And so I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye.